Hello, gorgeous community. I just wanted to pop in to say hello, to check in on you. I've been thinking of you. It's quite a wild ride, we can say, and there's a lot going on. I wanted to share a couple of things today because this thing about surrendering I want to talk to you about surrendering because this thing about being at home, being on our own, not really knowing this uncertainty that's coming up, it's very triggering for the good girl archetype. And the whole thing about the good girl, we know that she is the part of ourselves who is pure love, who loves to give, who wants to contribute and do everything for everybody. But due to her past, to her experiences, she wasn't really able to express herself in the way that she always wanted. She learned that she needed to be something different or something that others needed from her. And that caused her to find herself clearly in a place where she couldn't be herself. So that is the good girl. So then we went into our minds. Our good girl goes into the mind to like, are you sure? Are you doing things right? Is this the right time? And constantly doubting ourselves. I see so many of you joining. Welcome. So give me the heads up if this is what it feels to you. It got me thinking because every time when I teach about, the archetypes, and of course we know that when the good girl goes into the mind, trying to figure everything out and just like being in such on guard constantly, then the victim gets activated. For some of us, the victim is a part of ourselves who feels that she can't say no, who is disappointed, feels abandoned, feels like she can't get anything right, she can't do anything right. And it's almost like constantly feeling bad about ourselves. And so then the rest, for some of us, the bitch archetype gets activated, and not so much the bitch to everybody else, but the bitch within us. We get very hard on ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We have to do this right. We have to do it. Oh my God, you're so stupid. Things like that we say to ourselves. We don't even realize how hard sometimes we can get on ourselves. And the good girl, because she's not truly connected with her essence, she gives, she does everything for everybody, but she's not really giving because she's not receiving anything in return. In fact, when someone wants to give us and we're in the good girl alone, this is when we're like, no, we feel bad. It makes us feel uncomfortable, right? All that stuff. Glynis says, I got a temp job starting tomorrow. This was after I did the Wild Woman activation in my meditation again this morning. Awesome. It reminds me, I'm going to share the Wild Woman activation. Jumping on right now, this is, we had a call with Glynis. She's in one of my programs. And I recommended that. This is it. So that's why the good girl needs the wild woman, because the wild woman is the one that she knows without knowing. She trusts herself because she's intimately connected with herself. The wild woman is the one that reminds us of the truth of who we are. She reminds us of our greatness. She reminds us that we are unstoppable, of the abundance within. She is the one that is it's creative. Think about it. The home of the wild woman is within, in our womb. That's where we create life. So that's why it's so important to tap into her energy. Morning, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you, Susan. So happy to have you here. So today I want to remind you because it's so easy for us to lose our minds during this time, right? Like, I know that some of you have been sharing with me, you're doing your rituals. This is something that I am so fond to share with all of my clients in my groups. I get a little bit like strict about it, but for a good reason, because when we start our day with ourselves and we end our day with ourselves, We're just like giving ourselves everything that sometimes we look outside for, right? We're constantly like, that's what the good girl alone does. She gives, but in a way she's wanting to receive in return, but she doesn't, because when we give, and we don't care for ourselves, then we train others to need us. Does that make sense? Train others to need us, but they never give us, because again, then when they want to give us, we feel bad, we feel guilty, we feel greedy, and we block from receiving. The wild woman is the one that knows how to receive with grace and ease. And that is the whole point of why we need the wild woman in our lives. I want to share a story with you because, again, in these times of uncertainty, I find that a lot of people, even though they're doing the rituals, they're trying to be busy and find distractions. It's so easy for us the good girl meaning in us, to find distractions. Why? Because we don't know what to do with ourselves. No one ever taught us how to connect with ourselves. Does that make sense? And so, literally, like, we're scared to see what we're going to find, and what if I don't know. That's why this time it's so crucial for us to do the inner work. We need to build those skills. This situation is forcing us to come back home and to remember and to build the skills that will help us move forward. We know that this situation is going to pass. For some of us, it will be smooth. For some of us, not so much. I really trust and I desire, is my deepest desire, that you and your loved ones are safe, are healthy, and everything goes well. We know that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are dying at this time. And sometimes, sadly, this is a way for us to awaken when we see this, when something like this happens. It's sad, I say, because why can't we learn from the positive instead of having to learn from the negative? But that is human nature, and there's nothing really we can do as right now. Moving forward, the way to avoid this is to become more and more conscious, which is what this situation is forcing us. So this is the time, I want to remind you that this is the time for all of us. I mean, I'm sure you bought a program at some point. I'm sure there's a book that you've been wanting to do. I'm sure in your business, there's something that you've been meaning to focus on, but you never had the time. This is the time. This is the time. For example, me, I have an Instagram course that I did like halfway. I loved it, but then I got busy with other things. I started to launch my programs and I kind of put it on the side. Well, guess what? Now I have it on my calendar to find the space and the time to do it, to focus on it, because this is the time to prepare for what's next. This is not the time to get down on ourselves, to get distracted. No, this is the time to prepare for what's next. Ladies, for those of you who are in the service-based industry, for those of you who are in this healing path and it's your mission to heal, to help, the healing arts, we can say coaching, whatever it is that you're here to do and share your gifts with the world, this is the time for you to focus on it. If you're not sure of what they are, this is the time to connect within and you will hear the answers. And I want to share a story that is going to like blow your mind, because this is exactly at a time like this, but in a different way. This is how I created the archetype. So if there's something that you know you're meant to share with the world, this is the time to rise. This is the time to share. I was talking to a client yesterday and she was like, I don't know, I just feel like confused. Confusion is actually good. Confusion allows us to have options and to try different things. But of course, the good girl who's been conditioned to do everything right and to do everything that everybody else wanted would be hesitant to try new things. She's scared that she's gonna make a mistake, and oh my God, she's scared that she's gonna be judged or criticized. She's scared that what if I do it wrong? What if I hurt somebody? You know what? In a state of emergency like this, there is no time to overthink, okay? There is no time to overthink. This is the time for us to do it. Like, go Nike on it. Just do it. And you know what? If you make a mistake, you can always mend it. This is not the time to doubt yourself, to overthink, to find distractions, not to do what you're being called to do. More than ever before, the world needs uplifting. The world needs people who have positive attitude, positive messages. In fact, I want to tell you that I want to start the mantra series again in our community. To have for the next 30 days, we're going to be posting one mantra at a time so we can all be in this high vibration. This is what we're being called to do right now. Right now. Does that make sense? Anyway, I want to tell you this story about surrender because, again, going back to what I was saying, sometimes I get into these random thoughts, but then I come back to it. I feel very inspired and my mind goes like everywhere. But what I wanted to share is that a lot of people have a hard time. I mean, I've been teaching this message for about 10 years now in a different way. It then evolved. Go Nike on it. Yes. And to be honest, it's really hard to surrender because when we are in the mind, we're always wanting to control everything. Right now, look at the universe, how wise this situation is. We're in a time that we can't control everything. In fact, there's no control. The only thing that we can control is being mindful and knowing what we're doing. It's ourselves, which is always for life. The only thing that we can always take care of is ourselves and control ourselves. I like to say more being in charge of ourselves than control ourselves, because control comes from that it's just more constrictive. I love to focus on how things feel, the energy. That is the feminine. That is our wild woman, our good girl. That is part of our gift as women, is to tap into feeling. Of course, for some of us who've been shamed around feeling or who learned that feelings are bad or make us as weak, we're not going to go there. But my invitation today and moving forward is that you connect more and more with your feminine, with your feeling, with the flow, which includes surrender. Surrendering, it doesn't mean that you're giving up. Surrendering doesn't mean that you're weak. Surrendering, just like vulnerability, doesn't mean that you're susceptible to be attacked. Surrender is actually the most loving act towards yourself, and it connects us directly to the universe. It helps us tap into our highest truth. Does that make sense? So now, I want to share this story. I keep saying and I'm not saying it, so I'm going to go say it. I remember I was building my business, my coaching business. And I was already experiencing success, lots of it, really good. I was doing great. I was first starting. I've been building, and now I started to put the structures to it. That's why my business just really skyrocketed. And I was like doing great. I loved it. But there was something that didn't feel good. Something like I was doing my work, because in essence, I still teach the same thing. But the way I was teaching it, it didn't fully resonate. But when you're in the process, this is what I'm saying. Like, we have to walk. Like, the only way to build confidence, the only way to know what's for us is by doing it. Like, honestly, you have to move forward. And yes, you're going to make mistakes. So, of course, I was building my business and I was teaching what I knew to teach at the moment, what I knew it was my truth. But I was still kind of like giving it shape, like you have a piece of ceramic and you're molding what it needs to be. If you don't touch the dough, it won't make sense. It won't form. So it's in the action that we find our answers and we find our way. But funny enough, and there's a fine line between the action piece and then the surrender. Excuse me, does that make sense? Because if we just do, but we don't step back to listen or to observe, to have a different perspective, we're never going to know if that's what it is for us. So I was building the business. I was being successful and I knew that something didn't feel right for me. There was something more that needed to come through, but I couldn't pinpoint. And I kind of like broke my brain trying to figure it out, and broke like meaning open my brain, but it wasn't coming. I was like looking and looking and looking, searching. What is? I was exhausted. I was building my business. I was leading my groups. I was finding like research everywhere, and it wasn't coming. And it was so frustrating. So on top of it, because I was always doing so much and not really sitting back, because I wanted to, you know how like we get hard-headed. I am such a strong will, and I'm sure you too. So for me, it was like, I need to figure it out. And this is where the good girl gets stuck. There's a part of it that's really awesome, but there's a part of it that really blocks things and the answers from coming. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? So now I was in like this pushing. Because the doing turned into pushing. Because now I got even more obsessed. I need to figure this out. Do you know, like if that ever happened to you? And so moving forward, what I did was I got burnt out. Because that's what happens when we push and we don't give ourselves the space that we need to process, to explore, to receive, right? We're like in masculine, and we're not in our feminine, allowing, surrendering. So I remember I was exhausted and I couldn't give myself the permission to actually say, you know what, I'm going to stop things for now. I'm going to like take a break. I was like, no, I need to do it. My groups need me. I need to do this. And so for me, at that time, what I did was, I didn't do it per se. Rob, my husband, he said, let's go, let's just take a break. And he booked a cabin in Maine, in the middle of nowhere. And I knew from there on that camping wasn't my thing, even though it was a cabin, but we didn't have a bathroom in the cabin. So that's for another live. But anyway, so we got there. And I was just resisting so much and he's like, can you please listen to me? Because of course, when we're in it, we're not listening to anybody, right? Like I'm not the only one, I know that. So I was so stuck in like, I need to figure this out. He's like, let's just go. Let's just take, like 12 days, let's go. I said, fine, we'll go. Long story short, we were living in New York at the time. We pack and we go. And we go to this beautiful, like middle of nowhere place in Maine. There was a gorgeous lake. We had the view in the cabin right on the lake. The water would like go in and out. I think it was the bay. It was beautiful, like honestly, like surrounded by trees. For a city girl at the time, it was like so refreshing. And it was the summer. Now, the thing is, it was so cold. Like one of those summers that feel like fall. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Of course, the obsessive part of me, I brought like 5 books. I was like, okay, now that I couldn't even stop. Like, this is how we do it, right? Sometimes we're like in this roller coaster, we can't stop. And I was like, okay, now that I have free time, I'm going to get busy reading. That is not surrendering. Okay, like lesson learned, that's not surrendering. But this is what the universe had in store for me that I had no idea. Due to being so cold, I remember I would open the book. I had that kind of beach chair overlooking at the water. You can picture it with me. I opened the book and I started to read 2 pages and I would like put the book here on my lap and fall asleep. I did that the first 2 days. And then I got the memo. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. So I went, and the rest of the time, literally, all I did was sleep at night because there was no noise, there was some fresh air, and it was cold. Sleep at night, 11 hours, 11 hours. And every afternoon, I would take a 3-hour nap. I mean, I give kudos to Rob, to my husband, because I was zero good company for that vacation. It's like he took a vacation on his own almost, because I was non-existent. I was so tired. So pretty much I slept for the next 10 days, 14 hours a day, okay? And I remember when I woke up feeling so unproductive, so hard on myself still, but I couldn't help it. I was exhausted. All I wanted was to sleep. I was like a zombie. We would go to LL Beans to just see things. There was nothing else to do outdoor. So we went to LL Beans every day, but it was like, that was it. There was nothing else to do. So it's like the universe forced me at the time. So at some point after I surrendered, I kind of got the memo. I was like, okay, everything is going to work out. I started to kind of, pep talk myself to, it's all going to be fine, and just working on my affirmations. And all of a sudden, we go back to New York. We go back to New York. That night, the first night that we slept in New York, remember I was telling you, I was like forcing and pushing, and I need to figure this out. There was something more in my business that I wanted to come through. I knew it, and I didn't know how to do it. I was researching, looking everywhere. I didn't know that it was here. I didn't know that it was here, and it would come through as I allow myself to surrender. Okay? For those of us who lived in survival our whole life, it's really challenging to surrender. We feel like we're gonna be unproductive, that something bad is gonna happen, that we're not gonna have money, that whatever. So that night at 3 a.m, ladies, 3 a.m, I woke up and I couldn't put my pen down. I was writing like a mad woman. And pretty much what was happening is, it's like someone was sharing a message, dictating a message, and I was just taking notes. This is when I created the archetypes. This is when the archetypes started to come through. I must have written for at least noon or something like that, from 3 a.m. to noon. I remember Rob is sleeping next to me, and I'm like, shh. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, shh. I really did not put my pen down. This is how easy things come when we pause, when we surrender, when we allow, when we connect with our feminine, with our wild woman. So I felt so creative, and that led me to so much abundance. Like everything that I teach now, like I changed all of my programs. And today, this work of the archetypes, you know it because you're experiencing firsthand in one way or another. To me, it was brilliant. It helped me, first of all, but then I was able to have an additional tool to help my clients, to help them realize so many things. And today, the work that I do, that I did, or that it took me 20 years, it literally takes women months to get there. It's so brilliant. I'm just gifted, I'm just kissing myself. But in reality, all I needed to do, little did I know, all I needed to do was to surrender. All I needed to do was to allow. And so I want to encourage you today, at this time, again, ladies, this is what we're being called to do, to be connected, to be centered, to find that inner joy, work through whatever we need to work through. Ask for support if you don't have it, or if you know that there's something that you've been wanting to work on or you've been stuck on. And now is the time to prepare for what's next, because after this, you're going to be so needed. Your gifts are going to be needed. So this is not the time to complain or to live in fear or to feel like you're gonna run out of money. No, and I'm not being delusional. I'm not being a unicorn right now. I want you to trust that if you're losing your job or if something's happening in your life, I need you to stay so solid like a tree. I want you to trust that there is a higher thing that is reshifting. And this is just a temporary thing in the scheme of things, in the grand scheme of your life. Everything will pass. I was sharing on my other live the other day that I've been through 2 major economic crises, and things shifted and things moved, and people who went through, I had firsthand people going through huge crises economically, they recover. This is part of our nature. This is part of nature. Everything dies and is born again. We need to remember that. And so when we're connected with our feminine, we trust the cycles. We know that there's a cycle for everything. All we need to do is to remain centered and to do the things that you're being called to do right now. Whether that is you have a program that you want to do, whether it's something that you know you want to work on, reach out for help. There's tons of people. I am available. I am available to support you. I have programs. Let's do it. Just don't wait and complain or live in fear or like that scarcity. That is not the place. Yes, there is a reality. We are in a survival state. But you also, all of us, get to choose and have the power to move forward and to choose what is best for us in our lives. So if you had a program that you want to do, or even if you just stop and journal and stay with yourself, you're going to find the answers. This is the time for going within and trusting yourself, connecting with your Wild Woman. I'm going to post the Wild Woman activation here. And I also want to remind you, if you're just walking in, that I'm going to be doing a mantra series. We're going to start it again to lift the vibration, to have that energy really high, because this is the time for us. This is the time for us to raise our vibration, to lift up, to connect with our gifts, and to lift up the world, starting with ourselves. Because I want you to know that when you're happy, you're already sending off that energy to the world. Being miserable and in fear, it's not our place. It is not our place. That's not how we contribute. And if right now you don't feel strong because of whatever situation in your life to do anything for others, better be really good with yourself. You are already contributing if that's all you're doing. I promise, okay? This is the time for you to listen. Looking forward to mantras. This is the time to listen within and to learn to find what you need, what serves you, so then you can be of service to others. So this is the time to prepare. Yes? I really trust that you are receiving this message. I really trust this serves you today. I want you to know that I'm here, that I'm sending you so much love, that I'm thinking of you, and whatever you need, please reach out. Let me know how I can support you. We have an amazing community. I'm going to have women jumping on, and we're going to do meditations. We're going to do, I want us to be so deeply connected, and I want us to all come together. This is the time to rise, to come together as feminine, strong leaders. This is the time to step into your leadership within your life and to the world. I'm sending you so much love. Keep me posted. Mwah. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. Bye now.